Wow, we are in a great company today, and I am just so excited and deeply grateful for your participation today, Dr. Gail Wyatt and Gabrielle Union.
The first question that I have is how common is sexual abuse and exploitation as well as domestic violence?
That's a very common question. I'm asked it all the time. And it was one of the findings of the research that we've been funded to do by the National Institute of Health. It had to be funded by the government, or people wouldn't believe just how prevalent these experiences are. So it happens to 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will have a history of sexual abuse or rape. And that's more common than women will attend and finish college. That's just how much of a daily experience this is for too many women.
My next question for you is, has the Black community been aware of how common it is for a female or male to be abused sexually in their
When
community?
I spoke to Black audiences was, we don't do that. That's not something we do. That was done to us during slavery for almost 400 years. And we don't do it until The Color Purple came out as a movie. Now, all of you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Okay.
Yep.
When people started to see The Color Purple, and Alice Walker started being interviewed on television and radio and everywhere about the experiences that she had and that the women had in that movie, everybody was upset. That's not true. That doesn't happen to us. We couldn't do that to other people because it was done to us. No, that wasn't true. Usually, if you have a history of sexual abuse, sometimes it happens all through childhood. It doesn't end with one incident. In fact, if you're abused once, you're more likely to be abused again.
How did race play into your own story, and how do you think that racism adds to an already existing challenge, and also all the barriers to victims that they have to deal with? How does race play into all of that, and how did it play into your experience, if you don't mind sharing?
The people who need police to be, trained in sensitivity, the people who need folks to recognize cultural differences as they're handling, doing your rape kit. We had a well-funded, district or county where our rape kits were tested in a timely fashion. There was no backlog. But it's not like that for everybody. And it's certainly not like that for people of color. And if it's somebody, I remember somebody saying that my rape was valid, or it wasn't valid, or you have a for real rape, because they considered familial, whether that's family or just people that you know, or date rape. Rape is rape, to carry more or less validity. And when you add in race and socioeconomics, it complicates and makes that road to justice, just personal peace and safety, a billion times harder. You cannot separate race from every institution that runs this country and the globe. You cannot separate anti-Blackness out. You cannot separate that out. So what we're fighting through to get to help, to get to workman's comp in my case, to get to therapy, to get to group, to get to not feeling like you're having a full body heart attack going to the ATM. It's a billion times harder. And that for me is how race plays a role. And it continues to, because I always say rape is a life sentence. The 19-year-old that existed before January 23rd, 1992, she's dead. She's gone. and who was rebuilt, the phoenix that had to rebuild herself and try to keep my head above water, and rise. That's who you see today.
My last question, and I invite both of you to contribute to this, please. What is some advice that either of you can share if someone you know is in an abusive relationship? As we know, there's multiple kinds of abuse. It's mental, physical, emotional, familial. And so what advice would either of you give to somebody that either is in an existing abusive relationship or maybe hasn't processed a crime that has occurred to them because maybe they weren't aware of how or what they could do to go about that?
First, I want to tell you, I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. And you don't deserve this. You're not worthless. And if there is a way that you can find some safety, so there can be we can make a plan for your safety and the safety of your children if you have them. But our normal things that I used to say, oh, you got to get a restraining order. We've seen how that works. It's weird. Violent people don't tend to. So wait, they got paperwork. I'm not going to hit you. But it starts with the belief, and having enough people say, I believe you, and it's wrong, and you don't deserve this, and you are so valuable to us that we're going to help you get safe. So hopefully one day you can start to heal from all of the trauma, and same with your kids.
You know, you can't turn on your partner, your husband, somebody, because you know how we're treated. And the reality of that versus, well, I'm being beaten and I can't survive this relationship and the children are traumatized. It's a really difficult decision to make. So telling women, and I've seen some therapists say, you have to leave him and then come and ask me for therapy. That's ridiculous. You have to help a woman and let her be the one to make the decision on her own. And I've had women call me 5 years after they finally ran out of money and stopped coming to therapy and said, I'm out. And that's all they say and hang up. They don't want me to know where they are. They don't want me to help anymore. They just said, I'm out. And I cheer for them. It took them that long to figure it out, where to go, how to get out, how to get their kids out, and to not let him know where you are. So there won't be any kind of harassment or any kind of retaliation. That's extremely important because you're right, Gabrielle. Restraining orders and all the things the law can do for you many times does not work because the police won't respond to Black people like they do white people. I've seen police just say, hey, man, lay off and leave after someone is sitting bloodied on the floor saying, help me. So we have to deal with the realities of racism every day if you're a person of color. And I let them know in therapy, you can expect people to look at you. Ministers have said, let's pray together, honey, and you better get on back in there because he's too good for you to let go.
My mom was a survivor of sexual assault, multiple, actually. She was a repeat victim. And I know how it impacted us kids. So it's not just the victim that's impacted, it's the families, it's the family unit and the children underneath it well into adulthood.